going on, guys? It's your boy, Professor Crypto. We got another hot interview for you today. I am with the CEO of Partisia Blockchain, Miss Adrienne Youngman. Adrienne, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Professor Crypto. I love your energy.
Thank you. Yes, I'm super excited about this interview. Partisia is a massive project in the space, guys. Anyone who hasn't heard of them, guys, you need to do your research and due diligence on Partisia. Particularly, guys, just to give you a little bit of a recap before we jump into the questions that we have for Adrienne. I'm going to tell you guys, this is a layer one chain that's reimagining how we interact with data. Before Bitcoin, guys, money was either trusted to banks or hidden under the mattress. And before Partisia, your data was either handed over to institutions or you disconnected from the digital world entirely. So this cutting edge technology, guys, I really want to bring to you to make sure that you're well aware of it. So let's jump right into the questions now. Adrienne, are you ready for this?
I hope so.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it. So the first thing that I want to tackle here is the data custody problem, because we know that this is an issue that's been ongoing, as I kind of touched on in the intro there, right? So for those who may think that this isn't their problem, what are the long-term societal or economic consequences of continuing with today's broken data models? What do you think about that?
I think that's a great question. So I think if we take it back and just look at a kind of brief history, take something like healthcare data. So something that's very sensitive and personal to me. Like 50 years ago, that would have sat in a paper folder in my doctor's office, and it would not have left that office. It would have been very secure, but nobody could interact with it. Other hospital departments, if I did scans, I'd have to have the actual physical copies brought back. It was very limited. As that evolved, you had kind of closed, secure database solutions where different trusted actors within that closed system could interact as records were digitalized. But you still had this situation like with the NHS, where they wanted to actually work with external parties to improve diagnostics, improve services, and that data cannot leave that closed system. It still can only interact within that small trusted network. Now we see as kind of we're accelerating into this digital age, and you see things like AI coming in and offering kind of new radical ways to explore your personal health span, your lifespan, your longevity, your biological age, your origins, your likelihood of diseases, like all of these mind-blowing things that can massively improve our lives. And they require us to give the same kind of data that up until now has been in these very closed systems to a myriad of third parties. So if you want to access the insight, there's no way to access the insight without giving up all of the data. And if you see what happened with 23andMe, where people were giving DNA data to a centralized team, trusting them to custody that data in order to get kind of specified insights back, and they got hacked. And now those people's DNA records are on the dark web somewhere. As they potentially go into bankruptcy, it's going to be sold as an asset to who knows who. You get no say over that. And it just seems a little antiquated. Like if we think about what we can do with blockchain, and we think about what we can do with privacy enhancing technology and the synergies between those two, because for us, blockchain was just the best way to execute the product. There was a massive real world issue around data privacy, and blockchain was just the best way to build MPC. And multi-party computation, or MPC, is a really good way to enable you to retain custody while having those rich interactions, so that you can even run prompts for AI models on data that is encrypted. You can, as a business, interact with a partner to, maybe you want to give better third-party services to your customer base. You want to be able to give them better insurance deals or financing deals, but you don't want to give up your customer data because that's your moat. And also, you probably aren't allowed to from a regulatory standpoint. You could give them the ability to interact with it through a computation, get rich insights back without ever exposing anything, and then you as a user, I can revoke permission. So if I lose trust in you, I haven't given you custody. Like I haven't shot my bolt. Like I still hold it, I still control it. I can take it back. I can say, you know what, 23andMe, you're done. Like you're not having it anymore. It's now closed. Because it doesn't cease to be mine. And I think that's something that's really important. But actually, I think if you look at it beyond that, it's kind of mind blowing, because if you don't have to go through that disclosure process every time you upload, if it can be as simple as just, verify from my secure data or run the prompt from this already secured, trusted data. You can also build much better interfaces. Like, you can reduce timing. So like, take something like a KYC process where every time I need to interact with a regulated product, they have to go through a know your customer process, which means I have to upload my passport and I have to do a liveness check and I have to show that I'm the person on my passport. Actually, if I've already done that with a verified third party that has a really strong trust anchor, and the product just needs to run a prompt or a query to that data to get their reassurances, suddenly, instead of that being a really annoying 5-minute, 10-minute, even longer journey, it's a one-click solution. So I think there's this progress that happens where, like, it's kind of like clothing, we started wearing it to protect us, but actually now there's this just joy of choosing what I reveal and what I hold back, and there's fun and interaction within it. And I think that ability to choose what we reveal to others about ourselves, whether we're a business or an individual, and being able to control that dance, like there's power in that, and there's fun and there's joy. There are better interfaces, there are better products.
Wow, great answer there, Adrienne. I have to say, wow, kicking off the interview with detail. I love it. So that leads me into my next question. Why do you think has no existing blockchain or tech solution fully solved this issue of data custody and privacy yet? What's missing in this space, would you say?
Yeah, so I think that blockchains have solved their initial problem really, really well. I think we set out to create new financial systems, and actually the ability to have like a globally shared database that can't be fiddled with and that is there forever is like, it's a massive enabler, and it enables you to kind of track ownership and transfer ownership. When I send BTC to you, it's yours, and that is clear and unambiguous and doesn't change. Data requires a little more nuance, because I want to maybe be able to share it to a degree, or I want to be able to share it selectively, or I want to be able to have it kind of in a trusted way, but actually to be shielded on chain, because I don't want everyone to see it. Because actually, if it's beyond just that kind of simple, mind-blowing, but effectively simple use case, it just doesn't really work. So I think that this is the evolution of blockchain. This is the ability to interact with sensitive data on chain. This is the ability to use blockchains to deliver better solutions to one of the biggest problems that we have right now around our data, around our identity, around our kind of our health, our well-being, our finances, our shopping habits, our shoe fetishes, or whatever it is that is important or intrinsic to us, like that we don't necessarily want to share with the world. So this to me is an important evolution of blockchain. This is us adding features and functionality to an amazing piece of technology to kind of drive adoption to the next level, to onboard the next wave of mind-blowing use cases. Like, that's why when I talk about it, I say that we're doing for data what Bitcoin did for money. I think blockchain has seen the seismic shift in how we handle financial assets, and we need to do the same for data.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So can you talk about some of the risks individuals are facing with their data today, using real world examples like the 23andMe breach? Like, we touched on that at the beginning on the first question. Is there anything you want to expand on with that? Like, is there any more examples you can think of? Anything people could be like, oh yeah, that happened too? Yeah. Let us know. What do you think?
Data breaches are quite common. And the average cost of them to a company is about apparently $4 million per data breach. Like, it's huge from a business standpoint. Like, there is a massive major problem to solve for companies as well as for users. And everybody has, I'm sure, had been told your password's been compromised. You've definitely, I'm sure, had calls from people who've managed to get hold of your phone number or your email address and are trying to execute the latest scam or the latest marketing activity where you're kind of, where data has traveled in places that you didn't intend it to when you maybe signed up for whatever you signed up for. So I think it ranges from the kind of the small to the huge. I think 23andMe is probably the biggest example of genuinely sensitive data, your DNA data, predictive illness. Like, imagine your insurers getting hold of that. I think that is the most sensitive side, but it's also got a massive cost for companies.
So let's talk more now about Partisia's unique approach. Okay, so what you guys are doing to kind of combat these issues, right? So the multi-party computational, the MPC that you guys have. For anyone unfamiliar, what does this mean in practical terms?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think it's important to kind of ground everything in that really clear understanding. And multi-party computation is in some ways not the simplest technology. So it's not new. Like a lot of this technology, it's been worked on and researched for a long time. It's now becoming incredibly practical in implementation. That's like the massive change we've seen over recent years. So one of our founders actually wrote one of the first papers on MPC back in 1988, a gentleman called Ivan Damgard, who also co-invented the Merkle-Damgard hash function, which has been like foundational to modern cryptography. So, you know, it's not new, but it is this ability to encrypt data. And there are different ways you can do it, either through a technique called fully homomorphic encryption, or through a secret sharing technique, or, you know, a hybrid, where you take confidential information and you encrypt it, you make it private, and yet people can run rich computations from it. So if you compare it to something like a ZK proof, which I think at least people in Web3 are a bit more familiar with, you know, a ZK proof can verify something from one data set. So it can run a simple question. Is this person this? Does this person have this? It can get a binary response, yes or no, true or false, of one data set. With multi-party computation, you can then run a computation of multiple individually secured data sets, or of one. So for example, with a ZK proof, I could say, is Professor Crypto over 18? Yes or no? With multi-party computation, I could say, actually, I could run a custom query on KYC. Like, does Professor Crypto meet these requirements? Or can you tell me what his field for this is? And then you can selectively disclose pieces of information that then meet the KYC requirements. So I can ask something that isn't just a yes or no. Or I can say, actually, what is Professor Crypto's credit score? Is he creditworthy? Like, should I be giving him this rate or this rate? Like, what's it to be? And you can actually enable me to run that credit score and get a granular number of financial data I never see. So it's kind of like a little magic trick where you can actually ask rich questions and get rich responses from data that's never exposed.
Very interesting, very interesting. I gotta say, that's super innovative in the space, very progressive, very interesting. The MPC technology that's been deployed by organizations like the Danish government and Bosch, what can Web3 builders and users learn from those real-world applications, would you say?
I think the Danish government example is a really good one, because it builds on that healthcare narrative. I think health is something people really understand. They understand intrinsically the sensitivity of that data. I think financial information is probably another one. But within Denmark, we enabled them to encrypt patient health records and yet run calculations, aggregations, gain insights. So the National Statistics Office can query that data without seeing it. So there are, I guess the thing I would say to Web3 builders is there are so many different use cases you can build from this, that you don't have to trade off functionality and privacy, that actually privacy can improve functionality. That actually building with this at top of mind, like being more aware of MPC, multi-party computation, but also all of the privacy enhancing technologies, that actually together we can unlock better UX while preserving the privacy of data that should be kept private. And we're seeing a lot of interest in areas like identity. I think it's huge. And there are a number of things that we should be announcing in coming weeks to show projects that are going to be building with, you know, identity focused products, things like KYC, potentially things like AML, so that kind of reg tech for the new on-chain, online financial order, but also, you know, just digital identity solutions more holistically that can be implemented in universities, in new kind of a general purpose, like when you're interacting with tax or you're interacting with ID systems on a nation-state basis. So we are looking at some announcements coming out in that regard in the next couple of weeks, I hope. We also have a lot of interest around AI. I think AI is probably where the biggest future applications of this will be, and trying to think about, you know, how do I retain some level of ownership of my data? Like, we're all going crazy with AI agents lately, but like there's this anxiety of, you know, I'm training this agent, is it actually mine? Like, is the data mine? Like, who owns it? Can they pull it away from me? And if they pull it away from me, am I left with anything? Like, I spent all my time training this thing, but what is mine? Like, this question, I think, of ownership is a really interesting one in this new emerging order. So I would encourage people to just pick it up and play with it, to the builders to think about not just kind of it from a protection and defensive standpoint, although that is important, but also how do we build better products that are privacy preserving? Because I think, you know, this future is incredibly, I find myself balanced on a knife edge. I don't know about you, but like I feel like I'm torn between like being incredibly excited and kind of petrified. And I, you know, depending depending on the moment, I could go either way. I'm usually massively excited because I'm a massive optimist. But I think that by embracing technology like this, we can square off that trade-off. That we don't have to be petrified. We can just be excited and enter this new era with more power and more control over what we reveal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's talk about what can developers and users create with Partisia. Okay, so like what kinds of products are already being built on the Partisia blockchain and how are they solving the real world problems? Can you share examples from your ecosystem for anyone who's wondering?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share 2 examples because I think they highlight some really interesting stuff. So we have a user research product or a kind of user insight product that is being built on Cardano, but it's using Partisia as like a data privacy module, a product called Profiler, which enables you to build your kind of digital data bank and enable products and projects to access it on a subscription basis, on a kind of permission basis, so that you can give them access to it to give you better products or better analytics or better advertising, but you're much more in control. You're much more in the driving seat of it. You're not the product. You are unlocking revenue from data without kind of becoming this passive product. That's one I think is very interesting. We've got a private auction launching in a couple of weeks where, actually I was on the phone with a friend at Sotheby's this morning and she was talking to me about the private sales department and how that works. And there is this really interesting use case for, as we evolve as a sector, as wealth grows in kind of digital native communities and we want to hold digital assets, NFTs or digital art, we will need to grow our functionality. You don't always want to post things on OpenSea. Sometimes you need a little more discretion. I might not want the world to know that I'm selling, I wish I had a punk to sell, but I don't, sadly. But, if I did, I might not want the world to know. I might not want to impact collection prices. Like if I had a lot more sway than I do, I might have to be a little bit more careful about what people see me selling and what they read, like what signals that sends. So that kind of discretion piece, I think, is really important. So we're going to be launching it with a fun competition where we're looking at kind of putting some cool NFTs on there without reserves so people can get their last minute Christmas goodies. But actually the opportunity it's going after is much bigger, and that's being built on BNB chain with us providing the data privacy module. So, we're not trying to go out and say that everything needs to be built on us. We're much more interested in collaborating and just taking care of the bit that we take care of. And then, as I say, there's going to be announcements coming that I'm really excited about in the identity space. There's a number of different projects that we should be announcing shortly, which could be quite game-changing. And then in AI, I think is probably where the mid to long term, it's going to be all about AI. And how do we protect data privacy in the world of AI, in the AI era? Does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. I mean, AI is massive nowadays, right? So this is something I think you guys are tackling in the right way. So I'm very excited to hear about your announcements that are coming as well. I'm sure that they're going to be groundbreaking and just shaking the space. So definitely excited for that. Anyway, next question. So what industries do you think stand to benefit the most from products powered by Partisia itself?
Yeah,
what would you say?
So I think, AI, we'll just park that one.
Yeah.
I think anything that integrates or implements AI is game. I think that DeFi, that on-chain finance, is maturing. I see a massive space between DeFi and TradFi, where there are now more and more products coming in, where people are trying to hit feature parity with Web2 systems and structures and products, but on crypto rails. And I think that is a space where actually privacy and identity solutions are kind of the missing link, where you need to be able to hit regulatory compliance, but you want to do it in ways that are in line with Web3 ethos, that are individually empowering, or where, we have massive use cases. Like right now we have, honestly, like in Web3, we have a slightly sledgehammer approach to transparency, like radical transparency. And I think that for some of these use cases to come on board, we need better ways of being able to handle data so that we can have transparency where it's needed, but also be private where that's needed. Not all data should come on chain, and not all customers, like enterprises, aren't going to adopt blockchain. Like there's an entire remittance network in Switzerland that runs on its own digital version fraction of the Swiss franc that doesn't use crypto. And I think, if we look at examples like this, part of the reason they're not coming on chain is because I don't want the world to know what I've paid my customers or what I've paid my service suppliers or what they've paid each other, or, there's a level of transparency that I'm just not ready for, that isn't required in the modern world. And I think kind of having a sophistication of solution where we can shield data that should be shielded while maintaining absolute regulatory compliance. That it's not about removing the ability to see who it is, it's just about choosing who that is revealed to. And I think that is an evolution that's going to change the game in on-chain finance. And that kind of, that blends into real-world asset tokenization. There are use cases, I think, that are really important within Deepin. There's a drones project that I'm very close to where you look at the pilots of drones need to have a certain amount, especially in Europe, need to have a certain amount of regulation. You need to know who's putting objects into your airspace. You need to know what those objects are. You need to know that it's being done safely. So kind of object identity, user identity, agent identity, increasingly, as we go more and more digital, as our products and services evolve, I think that there are so many different places that this is starting to come up. I'm seeing use cases in so many different industry verticals, which is very exciting. But I think kind of, we're really trying to hone in on what are the problems we can most uniquely solve. And I think to start with, that kind of broad topic of identity and retaining ownership of our data and how that interacts particularly with AI, because I see that as being like the burning platform underneath all of us at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I think the other use cases will just come through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next question that I have for you, looking ahead, how do you see Partisia empowering Web3 developers and enterprises to create applications that weren't previously possible? Now, one thing I'm just going to note here, Adrienne, we are running out of a little bit of time here. We have about 10 minutes left. So I do have a few more questions for you still. So if we want to just kind of, we'll be concise about these next ones,
Cool, sorry.
Yeah. No worries. No, it's amazing. It's amazing. Honestly, the detail is amazing, and I'm sure our audience really appreciates it as well.
Okay, remind me of the question.
Sure, yeah. So,
build better features.
Exactly. So, we're looking ahead, how do you see Partisia empowering Web3 developers and enterprises to create applications that weren't previously possible?
So, for me, this is all about finding problems that we're uniquely placed to solve that people care about. And I think that ability to custody data while enabling rich interactions ultimately enables a number of problems to be solved around topics like identity, with interfaces like in more mature DeFi ecosystem where you might want more control, where it's not about removing private data, it's about choosing who it's revealed to and shielding it when it needs to be shielded. So I think it's going to be, I think that there are a number of different use cases, and as we see developers embrace the possibilities of the technology, because ultimately we're just the L1, I think that what you do with that is going to be up to you.
So diving right into this one, because I'm sure this is what everyone has been waiting for. Tell us about the token MPC. Okay, this is huge. Walk us through the role of MPC in the Partisia blockchain ecosystem. Tell us the mechanisms that are in place to ensure MPC plays a sustainable long-term role in driving the activity on the network.
Yes. So MPC is our native token. It provides economic security to the network. So operators need to stake MPC in order to run specific jobs. So we have different roles, and there are different levels of security required for each of them. So you could be a node operator for the MPC nodes, or for more of our consensus nodes, our bridging nodes, our Oracle nodes. So that's the key role of MPC. You can also stake MPC tokens to an operator, so you don't have to actually operate it yourself. You can stake to an operator and still benefit from some of the staking rewards. So as we encourage people to join the network, as we're at that early stage, there are some quite attractive rewards. So we've got very healthy double-digit staking APR at the moment. We're also, as people are using the network, we have this interesting model where you can also pay for transaction fees in MPC, obviously, and it's the easiest token to use for transaction fees. But you can also pay for transaction fees in stables. So you've got price stability as an app developer. You can pay in USDC or USDT, so you don't have these fluctuations. You can pay in ETH, in BTC, wrap BTC, in BNB, in POL, which was Matic. We've got a different approach, so that we're really trying to be that MPC as a service module. So you can plug us in wherever you're building your primary build, and you can continue to pay your gas fees in the token that you you've maybe got your primary grant in, or that you're primarily using, or you can opt for price stability and use kind of stable. So it is a gas token. It is also kind of primarily there for economic security. And since we're an early stage project, we try to make that as rewarding as we can.
Super lit. I'm gonna be buying myself some MPC tokens. It's settled. It's settled. You sold me on MPC. Oh, and I'm sure a lot of people watching are gonna be saying the same thing. So now let's talk about future growth and the vision, right? Everything that we have to look forward to. You've already given us so much to look forward to. But what's next on the Partisia roadmap? Are there any upcoming milestones or updates that the community should know about?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of major ones. So we're massively improving our staking interface to just make it easier for people to participate and to secure the network and be rewarded for doing so. That will be updated, I would say, by the kind of second half of the month. That will already be in place. We are also looking at decentralizing. So we are looking at building out a DAO for the network so that we can involve the community more actively in some of the big decisions. But I think the most exciting things are adoption. Like, we're starting to see major projects with massive potential for transaction volume actually building on Partisia. And this has been like a ton of time in the making. And we are, I think, on the cusp of seeing some really cool stuff. I can't say too much at this point, but within coming weeks, there should be some really good announcements coming around identity specifically in the near term, but also we've already done a proof concept on being able to run inference off encrypted data. We know that works, and we're going to be building off that and doing more and more research and creating more kind of things that people can interact with. So I think kind of adoption is the big thing, though. Actually seeing this coming into the world and being used on the public chain by major people, that's what I'm most excited about.
Me too. I gotta say, me too. So, looking beyond Web3, how do you envision Partisia playing a role in shaping industries like AI? I know we've thrown around AI a bunch of times in this conversation. We've parked it a couple times. Now, I want to hear, what do you think about reshaping industries like AI? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think it will be a number of different things. I think enabling people to build challenger products that have privacy at the heart. Like, I want to see private agents. I want to see an ability to build and train my own private agents where I still retain the data and the training information and the control. I think that people can build better products on us, and I'd like to see AI products built with this technology at the heart. And we're working with startups, but we're also going to be talking to some of the more mature players, and it's a very rapidly expanding space, so I don't know any of them are genuinely mature, but like at the more mature end of things, and seeing how we can bring this technology into the heart of those. But then, some of the announcements that I teased on identity, they're not Web3 company, So I think that this is technology that is not just Web3 centric. It is solving a universal problem. Like, it's actually primarily web agnostic. Like, it's primary. I wouldn't even say it's primarily Web2. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Well, I gotta say, Adrienne, thank you so much for your time today. We've learned so much about your project, and I'm sure that our audience has as well. I had an amazing time interviewing you. I feel very privileged to have you on the channel. So thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to further communication, further updates with Partisia. You guys have a great project going on. Was there anything you wanted to leave off with our audience? Anything you wanted to say?
No, I guess just have a look, give us a visit, follow, like, get MPC, hold MPC, stake MPC, join us in trying to build this future. We'd be delighted to.
Amazing. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it, Adrienne. And we'll see you next time. Looking forward to the updates. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Really hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button if you're interested in seeing some more crypto reviews and exclusive international blockchain events. We are the channel for that, guys, as you know. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.